Welcome to my channel. This is Divested Diamonds. You have arrived. In this video, we're going to talk about us, right? On a serious note, we are asking the question, are divestors too extreme? It's been a question, or rather, an accusation made by many in the manosphere, as well as black male-identified women who keep pontificating how hateful we are to other black people. Let's talk about it. When you are an outsider looking in, and by outsider I mean a non-divestor or someone who's just found out about divestment and looking for information to determine whether or not you should embark on this journey, the talking points can be a little jarring. There are so many divestment channels here on YouTube, but it's always great to understand which ones are real and which ones are fake. Everyone using divestment talking points is not a divestor, okay? Let's start with that. So I understand the confusion. However, real divestment channels are less performative. They tend to talk about real life issues that affect them and how they can get themselves to a safer place. And by safe, I mean as far away from Blackistan as possible. A lot of these channels, mine included, will talk about difficult subjects that affect black women living in close proximity to the black male collective, who in fact are a danger to black women and children. It's the experiences of these women that make them extreme. Part of the divestment process is recognizing why it is that your life is stuck in a cycle that keeps bringing you pain. Blackistan is not paradise to anyone except to those responsible for causing mayhem to everyone else around them. You have to understand that most black women have been put through the ringer by the likes of Tyrone and Quantavious, that once they escape those conditions, it's very necessary to purge. It's necessary to purge all the years of programming that majority of black women and girls are put through just for being a part of the so-called community. When you show up on people's live streams and they are discussing triggering topics, you need to take this into consideration. For most black women, talking to others about the abuses endured at the hands of people in the so-called community can sometimes evoke a lot of emotion because they soon realize that these are common problems that the so-called community covers up to protect the black male. Now, you all know how majority of black women are socialized. It's not a secret. The black male, who is really the aggressor and terrorist of the so-called community, is usually put on a pedestal and given power to reign terror over the women and children of the community. And this has been going on for generations. It's very seldom that justice is ever served when black women and girls are stuck in those types of situations. So when these women find commonality in their stories while talking to other women online, it's exactly like therapy. It's almost like a healing session, and it's comforting to know that someone other than their family members believes them and is willing to support them no matter what. The reason for that is very obvious. It's because other women, other black women who've been through similar circumstances can relate. Now, some people might call that trauma bonding if all you do is talk and don't find solutions to the problems. And that might be the case to some degree, but speaking the truth and sharing stories about things that have happened to you without a filter can only come off as extreme to those who don't want the truth to be out there. And goodness knows the so-called community loves to hide the truth. Listen, the truth can be a hard pill to swallow. And some of these experiences that Black women have had are sometimes so brutal. And yes, it should make you feel uncomfortable. Once you come to the realization that you've been living in a so-called community that protects the oppressor more than it does you, it can be very upsetting. When people are upset, it's only right that they verbalize how they really feel, regardless of whether or not it makes others uncomfortable. The only way forward is to be open, honest, and put everything on the table. Sometimes when you realize how these men have taken advantage of you as a girl or as a Black woman and caused you trauma in the process, you may call them unsavory things. It's part of the purge. Now, some people might not agree with it. They might not like it. But it's not about them, is it? Black women, for the most part, have been taught to keep things to themselves because speaking up makes other people, in this case, it makes Black men look bad. You as a person are supposed to mute yourself while others get to enjoy life at your emotional expense. And you wonder why some of these women in the early stages of divestment don't care to have a filter in their expression? When you spend most of your life around people who minimize your experiences and try to mute you because telling on those who've hurt you might somehow be perceived as uncomfortable or hate speech, there will come a time when you're not going to give two fucks about how that makes them feel. So yeah, it's easy to brand divestors as extreme, right? Based on the language used in some of our talking points. However, you need to understand the root cause of a lot of this anger. You need to understand where the damage really comes from. Anger is a natural human emotion, and sometimes it's very necessary. I mean, if you don't like certain channels because you believe that they are too extreme, just don't go there. Every divestor does not have the same energy, and women who are still processing the hurt and pain caused by those closest to them in the so-called community do have the right to express themselves too. It's all part of the process. Let me show you something that I found in my archives, and let me know if you think that this young woman should have a filter on how she feels after her own family did this to her.
It's a time and a place for everything, so I'm trying to be strong. But I want to introduce y'all to somebody. This guy right here, when I was 6 years old, he molested me in the bed when I was with my cousin Brittany and James and my little brother Isaiah in the bed. You remember that, Lance? Remember when you was touching on me and you went to wash my drawers out? You remember that? When you told me not to tell none of my aunts and you put a quarter in my pocket? You remember what you did? You know you're a registered sex offender online. You know that? You did other little girls the same way you did me. And you over here sitting here eating my family fucking food after you touched on a little girl that was a child? That's what the fuck you in here doing? There's a time and a place for everything. So I'm paying my respects and I'm allowing you to pay your fucking fucked up respects even though you never even went to go see my cousin. Right? How you feel about touching on little ass girls?
See, you can't tell me that her family didn't know about this. If this man is a registered sex offender, How would they not know this? That is public information. So they invited this dude to a family member's funeral, knowing exactly what he was, and further traumatizing this young lady. This is just an ordinary day in Black girls' and Black women's lives. So the question is, if this young lady were to divest from her family and the quote-unquote community, do you actually believe that she would have nice things to say about the lack of protection that she received as a child from a community that further protected this man? She was not the only one who had experienced that kind of abuse at the hands of this man. This is why it's always good to have a deeper understanding of other people's plight before slapping labels on them. Black women's concerns about the very community that has left them vulnerable to such abuses are valid. A Black woman's decision to want to distance herself from a community that embraces dysfunction over the protection and wellness of women and children is valid. Trying to coerce Black women to stay in a sorry attempt to keep perpetuating this dysfunction by shaming them isn't going to work anymore. Telling Black women that nobody wants them, regardless of which community they go to, isn't going to stop them from leaving. Black women have tried to work things out, but politeness has gotten most 6 feet under. You see, this crap might have worked during the boomer generation, but not today. This is not about dating white men or men of other races. This is about Black women and the preservation of their overall health. Unfortunately, you cannot achieve any of that surrounded by dysfunction in a community that doesn't care about you. Now, I know that it's hard for most to understand and accept, but most Black women are waking up and they are tired of being the sacrificial lamb for a community that never listens to their plight. So I think I've said enough, and I'll leave it there. Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, your truth matters. How you express yourselves might not make others comfortable, but are you willing to make yourself uncomfortable so others could feel at ease? Thank you so much for watching. This is Divested Diamonds, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Diamonds.